Hey and welcome back. This is video number 4 and we're going to talk about how to speed up your WordPress site. So we talked about how to speed up your HTML site in the previous video, so if you were able to watch that, you should get some ideas on how to apply the same concepts to your WordPress site. So for example, how to optimize and decrease the size of your images, how to optimize your cascade styling sheets, and other things like that. Now, when it comes to WordPress, it's a little more flexible than HTML pages because we have what we call plugins. So what I'd recommend that you go ahead and do is go ahead and log in to your WordPress administrator dashboard, as you can see here. And at this point, you want to go to plugins and click on add new. And what you want to do is, first and foremost, you can look for plugins that deal with optimizing images, possibly decreasing the size of the images, and so forth. Now, if you go ahead and type in the keyword image optimize, then you'll get a bunch of plugins that deal with optimizing the images. There are many, as you can see here. And remember in the HTML video I talked about there is a site called Kraken Image Optimizer. They also have a plugin that allows you to optimize new and existing WordPress image uploads. So anything that you upload from this point on will be optimized. And it's all done through the Kraken system. So you can install that. That would be good. You can also type in optimize CSS and you'll find a bunch of plugins. Now what I recommend that you do is make sure you look at the details and make sure that at the point of watching this video, find a plugin that is updated. Because at the point of making this video, some of these may be outdated. But as you can see, there are tons and tons of plugins that you can use. Now, there is one in particular that I'm going to be primarily focused on today, which is called W3 Total Cache. You may or may not have heard of it, but it's one of the highly recommended plugins we have found and through our testings found that works really well. So W3 Total Cache, as you can see here, and the reason why this works so well is because it focuses on many different aspects, not just one, not just the image optimization or the CSS optimization. It also focuses on caching, browser page, database optimization, object optimization, minifying, which you'll see a lot of in terms of GT metrics, especially Google or even Pingdom will also specify minifying HTML, minimizing images. And what I like about W3 Total Cache is it also provides you with the option of connecting it to a content delivery network. Now, if you're not familiar with content delivery networks, I will be talking about that in the future videos when we discuss web hosting. Basically, content delivery networks enable you to load your site at phenomenal rates. It allows you to speed your site up. But it also allows people in other countries to be able to speed up the loading time of your website. And I'll talk more about that in the future videos, but for now, just wanted to briefly touch base on that. So we'll actually talk about Cloudflare and MaxCDN and everything like that later down the road. Now, I will be discussing a little bit on MaxCDN today in this particular video, but we'll elaborate a little more with Cloudflare CDN as well. So what you need to do is I recommend go ahead and install this onto your WordPress blog. So let me go ahead and do that now. If you go to plugins, type in the keyword W3 Total Cache, click search plugins. It's a free plugin, so you can click on install now, click OK, and it'll install the package, and all we have to do is click on activate plugin. From this point on, we can begin to click on settings, or you can click on settings over here on performance here, and as you can see, it's quite detailed. You can do page cache, minify, database cache, object cache, browser cache, user and agent groups, and all these other types of options. So what I want to do now is just split this into two parts, and you can really focus on either shared hosting or VPS hosting. So what I mean by that is if you have a web hosting company and you're paying probably about $3 a month or even $9 a month, most likely you have what we call shared hosting. So you've been put on a server, you're sharing the hosting with everybody else. So if somebody crashes their site, it happens to affect you. Now, there are specific settings that we recommend for settings for shared hosting, and there are specific settings that we recommend in terms of having a virtual private server. If you're paying about 20, 30, 40, or even more a month, you probably know that you have virtual private servers. Now, that's just a general distinction, but hopefully you'll have an idea of what kind of hosting you have. If you don't, I'd recommend that you go ahead and contact your web hosting company and find that out. So if you go to click on settings here, let me first show you the settings that are related to shared hosting, because it's a little bit slightly different than a virtual private server. The first thing that I would recommend that you go ahead and do is, if you haven't tweaked your permalinks yet and activated your htaccess file, go ahead and edit your permalinks to some sort of custom permalinks, because otherwise TotalCache will ask you to do so. So just keep that in mind, otherwise you'll get an error message. Once you have actually edited your permalinks, you're good to go. Now, there are different settings for shared hosting and different settings for virtual private servers. Probably the easiest route that I can take you, and we've actually analyzed the different settings that are out there and found the best one. But if you go to Google and you type in W3 Total Cache settings, you'll get tons and tons of different sites out there that provide you with settings. But through our tests and everything like that, we have found that the guy that has websynthesis.com/importing -W3 Total Cache settings has, generally speaking, the best shared settings. Now, if you go over here, you will see that there are two recommended settings: starter plan and VPS plans. So in looking at the settings that they actually provided, we actually recommend and agree with them. Now, there are other settings that you can import, but we have looked at them and found this guy to have the better settings. So with that said, I recommend that you go to this guy's site, and then you go ahead and download the starter plan or the VPS plan. It's basically an HTML file that you're going to download, and I'll show you how to import them. But if you right click Save Link As, you will actually be able to download the HTML file. So what I recommend that you go ahead and do is just go ahead and download the settings that relates to your plans, and I'll show you how to import them. But once you're done with that, you can go back over to here and you can click on Import/Export Settings, and click on this. You can actually choose File. It says Import Configuration. Choose File. You're going to find the file that you just downloaded. So this one here is shared hosting. Once you're done with that, click on Upload, and it'll actually upload those settings. Now, this makes your life a lot easier versus actually showing you step by step every single one of the settings, because this will take about 15 minutes or 20 minutes just to show you per setting. But as you can see, if you go to the general settings, the page cache has been enabled. Page cache method is basic, not enhanced. It's basic because that's a shared server. And minify, you have that manually enabled, and so forth. So on a shared host, there's not as many settings to go with, but I'm going to actually show you how to enable the CDN, which can be applied to both shared hosting and VPS. Okay, so from this point, you can actually enable as well the VPS. So if you go back over to here, you click on right click, save link as for VPS, you will see that it is, in terms of settings, slightly different. So if you click on import/export, choose file, and we're going to find the file, and click on upload. You can actually see that these settings have changed. So the page cache has been enabled, but we can see that disk enhance has been changed. So there are slight variations in the virtual private server settings, as you can see here. So that would make your life a lot easier, just to find the settings and upload them, but that's the particular site that I recommend that you go to. There are other recommended settings, but this one has, in my opinion, the more of the better settings. So that's that, and let's talk about CDN, Max CDN. If you're not aware of what CDN is a content delivery network. So I found an image online just to show you what this concept means. Basically, with a regular web hosting, this is your server. So if somebody's in Africa or Asia or Australia or the UK or anywhere else, then they are going to actually connect to your server. So you can imagine connecting all the way from Australia to your host and your server here, or vice versa. It takes a little more time to actually connect, right? Now with Max CDN, you're basically paying them a certain amount per month. And what happens here is they have servers all around the world. They might have a server that is close to the city where, let's say, Sydney, Australia. If somebody is trying to access your website in New York, or even in, let's say New York, because that's a further distance than California, Max CDN will have a server, let's say in Sydney, Australia. So with them accessing that server, it's going to be a lot quicker, right? Versus them actually trying to access your server all the way in New York. So that's about a good amount of distance around the world, right? So that's what Max CDN is. They have tons and tons and tons of servers around the world so that the speed of downloading is going to be a lot quicker for that specific user. Now, there are two different separate ways to go about this. You can have Cloudflare CDN, which usually relates more to the actual web hosting. So you can find a web hosting company that has Cloudflare CDN integrated in it. Or you can connect to it using your host itself. And I'll talk more about that in the future videos, but for now I'm talking about Max CDN because that actually integrates directly into the W3 Total Cache settings. So if you go under CDN here, you will see that you'll be able to connect to a specific CDN. And configuring it is not hard at all, as long as you have access to the login information for the CDN. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of settings. But you do need to have access to something like Max CDN to do this. Now, for those of you who are interested, if you go to maxcdn.com and you go under their pricing structure, you will see that they have different pricing structures. So zones are basically like websites, and you can either do monthly or yearly. Now, what I recommend if you're just getting started out, just start out with some basic plan like this. Now, I want you to know that there are coupons out there on the internet, so just keep that in mind. You could be saving money versus paying the full price. So if you actually go to Google and search for coupon codes, there is a site called mostcoupon.com, and you can get 26% off your actual rate, which is a good amount of savings. But if anything, if this expires in the future, you can always go to Google and type in Max CDN coupon code, whatever year or month that you're looking for, and look for a discount. because you could save a lot of money. So as you can see, I actually applied the discount, and you can see that we're getting about $10 off. So there are different coupons out there. There are places that have made agreements and you can get a good amount off. So just keep that in mind, that you can save a lot of money just by looking for coupon codes. Now, after you have applied the settings to your shared hosting or VPS and with Max CDN, just keep in mind that if you want to do testing on your website again, don't test it until maybe after 48 hours, because it has to propagate, meaning things begin to work after usually about 24 to 48 hours. I would give about 48 hours and retest it from that point on. And you should see a slight, if not drastic, increase in the amount of speed that your site loads and everything like that. So using Max CDN in itself can actually increase you about one letter up or a few more letters up. So Max CDN in combination with something like Cloudflare CDN can actually multiply the download rate of your site really good. So anyways, I just want to make note on that. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about web hosting, Cloudflare, and things like that, so that you get super fast site loading speed. All right, let's move on.